Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Tavis Leaf Glover, and today we're continuing the photo composition masterclass series. We're on episode 3, and today we're going to be covering Irving Penn. So you may know him as a fashion photographer, but he's also done quite a few interesting still lifes, and we're going to cover his top 3 images just to see how his compositions are. And I'll have to admit, he's probably one of the best we're going to cover. Some of his images are just flawless and it's hard to find mistakes, but we'll start with this still life here. It's an interesting little still life, just nothing special about it, but it does have a nice figure ground relationship. The background's nice and clear. We can see the subject pretty easily, and it's an interesting subject. This is one of his series, so he's got several different pictures of the frozen food, but this is just one of them. Who thinks of this kind of stuff, you know? It's just interesting to see, I guess. I do see some similarities in his still life, so one place he could have gotten inspiration from is Giorgio Morandi. He's a painter, and it's part of his artistic style to flatten things out and have everything coinciding like this. So as we mentioned in episode 2 with Cartier-Bresson, they gain a lot of inspiration from these master painters, so it's always a good idea to study master painters for their composition techniques. Alright, so let's go back to his still life. One thing I noticed, it could use a little more saturation, but it being grayish and dead like that kind of adds to the frozen look. Like, it's not vibrant and alive, kind of frozen in time, and they don't look too appetizing either. But not many techniques being used here except for that figure ground relationship. We've got decent lighting on it. It's just kind of flat lighting. He's just trying to show the shape of these objects here, these fruit and the vegetables. But if he had some of these on more of an angle, they wouldn't look so cut out. Like, this just looks really flat right here. So does this one. Just looks kind of flat. This one's more turned, and we get more of that 3D look here, the edge right here, and then this is slightly turned. It could be turned a little bit more, and that's called aspect of view when you see 3 sides or more. So when we turn it, we've got an aspect of view, and we get more of that depth there with the shadows and stuff. So that's aspect of view, and we've got nice FGR, nice figure ground relationship. He's only got one diagonal here. Would have been nice to see more, maybe one up here, you know, with something on a diagonal. Maybe turn one of these, turn the corn on a diagonal that repeats that. That would be a nice gamut, the limited number of diagonals within the scene, but nothing too special. He's got repeating shapes, these circles with these circles, but other than that, it's a well-balanced image, nice visual clarity. It's just kind of boring, you know, not one of his most exciting ones. Now let's go to this one with Pablo Picasso. He's cropped in on the image. He's got some nice lighting, and we've got mystery here with his mouth covered here, and then the split lighting on his face, kind of shrouded in shadow right here, just kind of real mysterious, and he's creating a nice story there. He's got this on a diagonal, and if we go in here, get the dynamic symmetry grid, the square, drop that on there, we'll see how things line up. You can use the grids to check the balance, check the diagonals within the scene, whatever you want. You can use it to compose your own images or artwork, just a handy tool to have. You can see the symmetry here. We'll check and see if there's anything repeating or locking in. Alright, so if we check this, I'm going to mark this up here. We've got the nose right here on this vertical, and then on the diagonal there, and then his crease of his nose right here, it's on that diagonal. His eyes locking in there, the side of his head's locking in there too. And then if we run this parallel, I'm just going to draw this diagonal in so you can see it better, and then I'm going to run this up here, and we can see this is paralleling that diagonal right there, the part of the hat. So he's locking it into the grid, creating some nice mystery. He's got awesome lighting. He's got good figure ground relationship on the background that's completely blank here. Uses a lot of seamless backgrounds. Got nice sharp focus right on the eyeball. If you look really close, you can see the reflecting light here, so that you can see the direction of the light. There's no light coming from this side, which is why his face is all dark here. And he's using a technique I call the light to dark method. So he's got kind of like a darker background, then it goes light, and then his face is dark, and then this is lighter. So dark, light, and it's like a rhythm. It's a good way to pop your subject out of the background. He does a lot more creative ones than this too, but this is just one of them. Alright, I wanted to show you this article real quick, just to show you a little more about the light and dark technique, how it adds depth. I'm going to scroll down real quick. So here we see the technique simplified. It's just a gradient created on the subject and then on the background, and it's opposite gradient. We go dark, light, and it has a lot to do with simultaneous contrast, so you have to understand that. And that's just having to do with how value changes depending on the neighboring value. But these photographers are using this technique to create more depth, and it's really interesting to see in a photograph. Here's a couple by Horse P. Horse, how he uses it. He's got the light, the dark, light to dark. Here's another excellent one. He's got the light, dark, nice rhythm, perfect aspect of view on the face. We're going to cover Horst P. Horst in another episode, but like I was saying, all these old photographers and new photographers studied master paintings, so we can see where they got this concept of dark light to dark to light. And I'll show you, I learned this in the Barnstone Studios when I was doing these bottle drawings. You go from light to dark to light to dark, and it's a way to create depth. So I took this William Adolph Bouguereau drawing and I applied the technique, and you can see more depth here. She's popping out more against the background. So it's a really cool technique, and you should definitely try it out, especially if you're in a studio setting. Just try that out and see if it adds more depth to your photo. So that's a good one. Let's move on to the next one. And this is probably his best one out of the three, and mainly because it's, you know, this is Salvador Dali. He's a surrealist. So what we can see instantly is it's got nice figure ground relationship, and we've got this interesting shape here. And if we squint our eyes, or I'm going to convert this to the threshold, we can see this kind of hidden face in here. This is like a surrealist kind of moment here, the surrealist face for the surrealist artist within the photo. Kind of an interesting idea. I also got these diagonals in the background, right here, right here. His arms are creating diagonals, right here and here. So let's drop in the grid. This is a 5/4 rectangle. Turn this, resize it, and I'm going to go here and invert it. Again, we can see if his body is locking in or the background's locking in. So let's look closely here. Those diagonals in the background, they're paralleling perfectly. If we move the grid down just to show you, paralleling perfectly down here especially. Okay, so these diagonals are paralleling. Interesting, right? So you can use these grids to compose your model. So look, if we go like this, draw this diagonal and move it up, he's got it paralleling that arm. It's not perfect, but with photos you don't have to be perfect. You can get really perfect with paintings and drawings. Just use the grid to compose your image. You can get things way more perfected. This one's not really, I wouldn't consider that paralleling, but it's an interesting way to compose your model. And if you've ever used the grid on location posing your model, it's hard to get it just perfect, you know. But look at his feet right here, locking in and paralleling there. Same with this one, locking in and paralleling. His chin's right on that diagonal. And if you look really close, you can see his fingers locking in, paralleling the grid also, even his waist here. And what's interesting is you can use the eyes to help balance the image sometimes, and that's called gazing direction. So let's split this down the middle. We're always trying to balance things from left to right of that vertical center line, and we can also use this horizontal center line as well if you want to help balance things. But you can see his head is to the right of this vertical center line, and then his eyes are kind of gazing back this way, so that's helping the balance. It's an interesting way to help the balance rather than his eyes looking this way and adding more balance to the right side. So Irving Penn's working with perfect balance here, especially with that gazing direction. Now with the top to bottom balance, we call that the breathing room. So if we split this down the horizontal center line, we take a look at the top and bottom negative space, okay, and then we see where the most negative space is, and it's right at the top here, so the balance is going from bottom to top, and that's how we determine the balance that way. And that's the proper type of balance for most images. Now if he was composed more to the top of the frame here, that would work as well, and we could put, you know, more floor space down here, but to help with the balance we'd have to have him looking kind of in this direction rather than how he is now, because if it's as it is right now, he's more kind of like claustrophobic up here at the top, and we need more breathing room at the top there for the image to feel balanced. But if he was looking down, then it would bring more attention down towards this bottom, and it would help the balance. So that's some interesting things on balance, and I cover that throughout the Gestalt psychology videos and on the website and many of these videos on YouTube, so be sure to check those things out if you can. But that's it for today. That's Irving Penn, and he's got some really nice images. We start out kind of just mediocre, get really awesome and mysterious and professional and clean, and we work up to more clever and composed images with surrealism in it, working with the grid and working with proper balance. So I hope you enjoy that. Be sure to check out the other videos and comment down below if you want to see a specific photographer, and I'll check into them and see if I can add it to this series. But take care, guys.